Usually when we enter something new, we take the position of jumping in full force with all of our energy. But really, that's jumping in backwards. Stay tuned to the rest of this video to discover why the best way for you to successfully enter into your new things is through rest. For the best personal growth and career transition advice, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified every time I post a new video. Many of you are already stepping on the gas to make things happen for 2021, but you're already halfway to burnout. By the end of this video, though, you'll realize why you need to start with rest before you set out to achieve your loftiest goals. I have had the wind knocked out of me on one too many occasions by my own hand because I wouldn't sit down somewhere. Surrendering into rest, godly called rest specifically, not only has replenished me, but it's allowed me to make leaps and bounds towards my desires when I was otherwise stuck. So let's jump into why rest actually propels you forward. For one thing, it helps you to calm that inner critic and that inner arrogant person inside of you, because it helps you to recognize your humanness and the limits of your humanness, which is that you can't do it all and that you can't do it all alone. So it takes you to a place of humility where you have to stop and acknowledge that your world and what you're trying to achieve is going to take more than just you. So when you sit back for a second and you let the pride roll off of you, then you can allow room for help to take you to that next level and that next place, which is a really good thing, because the arrogance, it won't keep you. If you hit a certain standard, it won't be the thing that keep you there. Also, rest helps to quiet your mind, and it makes you more hypersensitive in a good way, meaning that with your mind not rushing, moving, because that's what you're physically doing, you can take a second and hear. You can take a second and have some peace, which will allow you to be mindful of your body, for one. There might be aches and pains that you're ignoring, and you're ignoring them to the point that they become disease, right? Or they become chronic issues. It makes you hypersensitive to maybe things in your house that aren't right, people in your life that aren't right, or your diet, any of those things. So when you step back and you're quiet, you can pay attention to what your routine is, what is in your life, so that you can make some changes, because there might be things you're doing that could be killing you, quite frankly. It helps for you to get reacquainted with your values, and why it helps to move you forward more quickly. Because when we get caught up, right, when we're on the treadmill and then the speed gets increased a little bit more, or the incline gets increased a little bit more without you paying attention to it, it's easy for you to forego your values. It's easy for you to accept what everyone else that's running alongside you in that same pace and energy is doing. You don't have time to feel, you don't have time to connect, you don't have time to recalibrate. But when you rest and launch based off of what you care about, then you can make insightful steps forward. And then most importantly, you hear from God and what he's revealing to you about the direction you need to go in. There's nothing worse than running 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, and then or smacking into obstacles that you could have avoided if you would have just sat down and rested, so that you can understand the direction that you are ordained and destined to go within, so that you can start making strides within it. And then with that, God also reveals the people that need to be on your team, that are going to help you to supersede and fast forward beyond what this world can give you. And he drops creative ideas. He drops expressions. He drops a schedule. He drops opportunities for you to take advantage of, which you might not have thought of being on the race of 100 miles an hour. So taking this time to rest and let your mind take a break for a minute and let things percolate will actually help you move forward instead of just moving for the sake of moving and not going anywhere fast. How many of you can honestly say that you feel like you can't rest or you can't stop what you're doing? I have definitely been there. And if that's you, tell me about it in the comments. So what does rest actually look like in the ways that I'm mentioning for you to be replenished from it? Well, for one thing, it means being content in this current season you're in, no matter what the circumstances are. And that's like non-existent in our current landscape. But when you just sit and rest and be, maybe you don't have everything you want. Maybe you still have some burdens that are beyond your control or some hurts that you wish you didn't have. But when you are resting, you can be content in it. You still have that desire to want for more, but it's not killing you. It's not so uncomfortable, or you're not allowing it to be so uncomfortable that you can't concentrate or anything else, or you feel like you have to remove it and break yourself out of the season, to break yourself out of the shell to get to the next thing. There's a sense of, I can breathe, and I know that what's ahead of me will be soothing to me. Rest also looks like stepping off of the roller coaster ride, the noise of what social media, society, and even your culture is saying to you. So it's not you rising to these new standards that are set by people, these new standards in fashion, these new standards in technology is what it is, but these new standards and how we relate to people, these new standards in television and media and all of these things, and feeling like you need to catch up to it so that you don't have the sense of FOMO. But when you're in rest, you move and you do things, you learn things, you absorb things, you watch things, you read things, you listen to things, you converse with people based on you, the overflow of the goodness that's within you, of the healthiness that's within you. And you're engaging in things that are feeding you and your genetic makeup and how God made you, in your spiritual makeup for that matter, not based on what culture is saying you need to do at that moment, because you may not fit that. Most of us are meant to live and to be an example counterculturally. Our influence is supposed to be that way. I know mine is. So rest is you move based on what you need at that time, and from the inside out and not from the outside in. And then lastly, what real rest looks like is that you are leaning into God for every single thing, more so than ever. That means that you may be on the front line of a battle in your life, but you're not the one who is waging the war, and you're not the one that you're expecting to win the war. But for every thought, every want, every desire, every hurt, every decision, every plan, every mountain, every standard, every excitement, every celebration, every care, that you give it all to God, like for real. Not so I meet God on Sundays and then I do the rest of me over here the rest of the week. Or I could talk to God about my hurts in this relationship, but I'm not talking to God about my finances. But that mind, body, spirit, everything that you touch and put your hands into, God is your partner in it, and you're allowing him to do that. So leaning into him in this rest, and even though you might not have it figured out or you don't understand it, but you know that by partnering with God and working with God and the Holy Spirit that's inside of you, that you being connected to it, obedient to it, and not self-sabotaging it, that you will be fulfilled at the end of it. And the last thing I want to go over is what rest is not. So before you ponder and decide that this is your season to enter into rest, let me just explain what it isn't. It's not sleep. Sleep is part of rest, but it's not the same thing. So it doesn't mean that you sleep for 12 hours a day every day and say, well, I'm resting, so this is what it is. Well, you still have responsibilities, right? And integrity, and there's still things that are required for you to do. So sleep is part of rest, but sleep is not equal to rest. It's not the same thing. It's not the opportunity for you to be lazy or to avoid work. It doesn't mean you don't clean your house. It doesn't mean you don't do your best. It just means that, like I said before, you're in this place of contentment and you're not overdoing it. You're not over striving it. You're not staying up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning to write a resume or figure out your life. But you are taking care of your body. You're taking care of your mind, body, and spirit. Really, you're taking care of everything. But you still are called to do what you need to do in that hour, whatever it is. And the last thing that rest is not, it does not mean giving up on your dreams. I've been there where I know God had called me into a season of rest, and I thought, oh, great. So I have to put my dreams on the back burner for who knows how long. But that's not what that meant. It just meant that my approach to my dreams was different. It wasn't running myself into the ground, but it was sitting back and listening before I'm running into another direction. So your dreams don't have to go anywhere. They're still sitting right there with you. They're still very real. You still think about them and perhaps strategize, have conversations about it, but it's just not punching at it full force. With that being said, I ultimately want to encourage you to press pause before you press go. I'm not telling you to press stop by any means, but pressing pause will do you some good, trust me. However, it's also important for you to know which kind of rest you need to be entering into this season. So over the next few days, I'm going to be releasing videos highlighting the 4 main types of rest, how to enter them, and then how they will replenish you for your purpose. So make sure that you come back tomorrow to get equipped and to get an understanding of what kind of rest you need to be entering in for this season. In the meantime, make sure you check out my latest video, Why I No Longer Set New Year's Resolutions, to learn about how I am approaching this year. You can find the link below in the description. Also, continue the conversation to let me know what kind of rest you're entering into, if at all, by joining my Facebook group, From Stagnant Job to Ideal Career. And then lastly, of course, if you like this video, let me know by hitting the like button, subscribing to it, sharing it with people who you know are struggling and need to sit down somewhere for a little while. And then comment below with telling me about how helpful you have found this video. I will see you tomorrow.